Hello and greetings once again, fellow train fans. It's time once again for Train Tuesday. Thank you for joining me. I'm Jim Wigan with Athearn and so glad to have you on board. Now, if you like the content that you see on a weekly basis, please do us a favor, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this drops into the channel, and comment. I can't promise I'm going to answer all of the comments, but I do my best to answer as many as possible. So we're going to be talking about 85-foot trailer on flatcar, or TOFC for short, flatcars by Athearn. These are HO scale models, and by the time you're watching this video, they are going to be available at your Athearn dealer, and maybe a few will be available direct at athearn.com as well. I've left links in the video description below for both the original PDF announcement as well as those that are available still direct. You can also go to the product pages and see the exploded views for these models should you need parts, and contact our service department for lost or broken parts. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with another Train Tuesday, talking about these earlier flat cars, TOFC flat cars, that were pretty much seen throughout the country in the 1960s, into the 70s, and even for a little bit of the 1980s. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, we originally announced these back in March of 2023, and these are an old standby for Athearn. They've been around for a number of years. For this run, we are representing 1970s as well as 1960s. Now, a little bit of background on these 85-foot flat cars. In 1957, the 40-foot trailer basically was brand new. Before that, trailers were typically 35-foot or smaller, but by 1957, regulations allowed trailers to grow to 40 feet. In a year later, in 1958, Trailer Train Incorporated started getting their first 85-foot flat cars. Now, we are going to be offering two versions of the Trailer Train in this release, and it's going to be interesting to see a little bit of differences there. We'll talk a little bit about that. So almost overnight, the older flat cars were obsolete. These new 85-foot flat cars could handle two 40-foot trailers. Now, the 40-foot trailers had a great run. Throughout the 1960s into the 1970s, both regular common carriers as well as railroads would have their own 40-foot trailers. And a lot of those paint schemes were really colorful. You can see there's a couple behind me on the layout. It was then in 1981, regulations changed once again, and 45-foot trailers were then allowed to be on the road. Now, that didn't really call the end of these flat cars overnight. They were still used right up until 1985, actually as late as 1987. In 1985, we saw the trailers grow once more to 48 feet. Now, we'd see it grow once again to a common standard practice today of 53 foot in the 1990s. So if you're a modeler of the 1960s into the 1970s, we've got some road names here for you. And if you're into the 70s into the 1980s, we've got a few for you as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with this run of the Athearn 85-foot TOFCs. So coming up first, we've got the 1970s era Santa Fe. Pretty common car. We're offering three different road numbers for the Santa Fe. As you can see, the one that's on your screen is one of those road numbers, as well as two additional road numbers. Now, you can also select the link in the video description below to look at the original announcement video and confirm those road numbers. There are no duplicating road numbers on any of these. Here's the 1970s era Trailer Train. Now, in the 1960s, Trailer Train had more of an oxide reddish brown color, but they changed their corporate image a little bit in the 1970s. The early 1970s, they went to the more common yellow like you see here. They changed their name a little bit, and that would stay pretty consistent until around 2008, when they just became TTX. Now, we're going to offer three different road numbers for Trailer Train as well. You can see the road numbers listed there at the top of your screen. Again, 1970s, you can put these into the 1980s with some weathering, And remember, those 40-foot trailers, they didn't go away overnight. You'd still see those into the mid 1980s. Now, here's the 1960s version of the trailer train. This was their earlier paint scheme. It was more of a oxide reddish brown. We're going to offer two additional road numbers besides the one that is pictured on your screen presently. 1960s era Great Northern, of course. This looks really nice. We're going to do three road numbers for these. And of course, if you've got the Athearn 40-foot trailers like I do behind me, they will settle on there very nicely. If you're into modular, like say Fremo, you may want to use some Eileen's tacky cement, just a little bit on the hitch. That way they stay on there. But if you do need to remove them, they're easy to remove without marring the finish of either the car or the trailer. 1960s continues with the Southern Pacific. Three road numbers altogether for the Southern Pacific. 1960s era Soo line. This is going to be available also in three different road numbers. And Florida East Coast. We're going to have this 1960s era car available in three road numbers as well. And like I said, we've just released in the last year or two a couple of different versions of 40-foot trailers. So you can put these on and you can have a really cool 1960s to early 1980s TOFC train. And since we're offering so many in this run within the same time span, it's real easy to make a solid brace of these in your on your layout or your modular setup. Let's talk a little bit about the features of these Athearn HO scale cars. They do have detailed trailer hitches. These definitely, I would recommend. There's a lot of detail there. Do some weathering on them, even if it's just some light dusting weathering. It really brings out the detail on those hitches. These also have factory installed wire grab irons. And nice thing about these is they've got a formed metal underframe that allows them to track nicely. They've got good weight to them. All of the weight has got a lower center of gravity where it belongs, so that when you do put trailers on top, you don't have to worry about them derailing so easily or just simply falling over. All of the weight is where it needs to be, lowering that center of gravity. Of course, they're going to include RP25 profile 33-inch metal wheels. And something else that's really nice about these cars, they have a special swing mount coupler box. We'll show you that in detail in a moment. That really helps them navigate a 22-inch radius or larger without having any problems with this, uncoupling or things of that nature. Really, the minimum radius on these cars is 22 inches since they are a scale 85-foot car. And of course, they do include McHenry scale knuckle couplers. If you want to switch those out, you can. But you can look at the exploded view on the product page at athearn.com for these and determine which coupler would work best for you should you decide to replace those couplers. Now, by the time you're watching this video, these models are probably have already shipped, if not shipping right now. If you pre-ordered these, you've probably been notified by your dealer. If you did not pre-order, I highly suggest you talk to an Athearn dealer now and see if they have some that they ordered over their pre-orders. Some do that for show stock, store stock. You may be lucky that way. However, as I've said before, going forward, Athearn is really just ordering pre-orders. We used to order a little bit above pre-order. We're not doing that anymore. We've really firmed up our orders with the factory. And so it's really important that you pre-order in order to get what you want. So with that being said, let's go ahead and do a quick op sessions with this 85-foot TOFC by Athearn. All right, we're back at the layout, and I've got loaded on my Santa Fe TOFC. I've got a Conrail trail van and an Illinois Central piggyback. These are definitely ones you would have seen in the 70s into the 80s. If you're interested, these are completely sold out at athearn.com last I checked. Your dealer may still have these. We delivered these within the last year. The Conrail one is ATH-1022, and the Illinois Central is ATH-1190. So you can probably find these still at some dealer shops, but they tend to sell pretty quickly. So let's see about getting things set up here. Just out of sight is the Athearn Genesis GP39-2. I'm using Delaware and Hudson 7405 for switching duty today. And if you didn't see the Train Tuesday for that, that's just a couple of weeks ago. You can go to the Athearn YouTube channel and look at the show listing for Train Tuesdays and go back a little bit just in case you missed it. Now, by the time you're watching this, we're towards the end of September. And before you know it, we're going to be doing live sessions once again. Now, I do have the sound set pretty low on my 39-2 just because the room in which this layout is in is rather small. So we're going to pick up our empty. And when we're coupled up there, go ahead and pull forward. These have the 33-inch metal wheel sets, RP25 contours. I am using Microengineering Code 70 tracks, so you can see they have no issues with that. So if you're using Code 83, Code 70, even just the Code 100, these will track really nicely. Remember too, they've got the metal underframe, so they track really nicely. 85 feet, so for a small layout like mine at 8 feet long, you really need a little bit more room. This is kind of a stretch on a small shelf layout like this. However, just wanted to give you an idea of what these guys look like in real time. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him camera center, and I'm going to cheat when I uncouple him because I want to show you something. Let's just put him right here. So remember, I was saying that there is a swing coupler. This really comes in handy if you've got a 22-inch radius curve. Undo that there, and let's take a look at the underframe. And you can see this box here. This allows this coupler to swing a lot more than what the prototype in real life would have. If this was just rigid, you would need a much larger radius in order to use this. But however, since we're modeling HO, we don't always have that, that option. And 22-inch radius curve is the minimum on these. But even if your club layout only has a 22-inch radius curve, because of that swing coupler, these cars will navigate those radius no problem whatsoever. Also, too, here's our metal frame. All your weight is down below, so they track better, but you still have the nice Nicely detailed plastic deck. Got your hitches. Like I said, the black really hides a lot of the detail. If you do just a slight weathering on these, it really brings out the detail. Of course, you've got your metal wire grab irons. If I set this guy down, these are positionable. In the real world, loading and unloading these would come down, and these hitches would fold down, and a small standard cab truck would hook up to these trailers and then drive them off. There'd be a ramp on the end of this, and they'd be sorted that way. So I'm not doing this prototypical today. I'm just kind of showing you how I'm doing it with my little layout here. And now summer has been busy. I have not done any work on the layout. That's why we don't have any ballast or anything. So there you have it. That's what the swing coupler does. It allows us to run on curves that in the real world would not exist with these cars. All right, let's go ahead and spot that loaded one. I think just off camera, I see a semi already waiting for one of those trailers. So let's go ahead and get moving. Well, he's moving out of the way. I'm going to move him back into position because since he is so long, I don't want him to foul up my switch. Now, let us know in the comments section, what era are you modeling? Do you enjoy the TOFC stuff that we're doing? Are you more into the modern, where they're using 53-foot trailers, or are you more of a container type person? Or do you enjoy the 1960s, 70s, and early 80s when the 40-foot trailers were still commonplace? Now, again, what I do is this, as I slowly back into the siding or the spur here. What I do with my setups, both HO scale and N scale, there's Eileen's tacky cement. Just put a little dab. You don't need a lot. Just put a little dab on the hitch. And if you really want to, sometimes I'll put them on the actual wheel bogies of the trailers themselves and put that on there. And the nice thing about that is that will keep them from rocking off, especially if you're like me and you do a modular type setup. But should you need to remove that trailer for whatever reason, you can. You can remove it. It's not going to damage the paint. It's not going to damage the trailer. You just need a little dab, though. You don't need a lot. And the nice thing about the Eileen's tacky cement is it dries clear, so you can't see it. When I say you just need a little, probably the size of head of a pin. You don't need a lot. All right, so he's disconnected now. We're going to go ahead and move forward, grab our empty, and head back to the yard. Short run today. Now, ideally, these are perfect for Fremo. If you're into Fremo or some type of modular setup, these types of cars really shine, and they're pretty impressive. I'm still building mine in N scale with 89-foot Athearn Genesis cars, and it's really impressive, especially if you're at a show where you've got the public. People can relate to them really easily. Now, out of the box, you're definitely going to want to do some weathering on these. It just looks better, but out of the box, they're really ready to go. Well, that's all I've got for you on this episode of Train Tuesday. I want to thank you for joining me, and we are getting close to getting back to lives. The first Train Tuesday live will be October 7th at 7 o'clock, and we've got some surprises for you. I've been busy this summer, and obviously not working on this layout, but we've got some other things in store for you, and I'm working on some things to make Train Tuesday even more interactive for you. So I'm hoping you'll enjoy that. I'm looking forward to it. So until next time, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens. Take care, everyone.